and to create enablers. I will just talk very, very briefly as I conclude on this. At this time globally, the industry is moving to bigger and much more efficient plants, as you all know. Therefore, in supporting world-scale capacities to assure long-run sustainability, all policies that we put in place as government and infrastructural plans must align in order to support these sort of very robust plants. We must also create awareness amongst local entrepreneurs to grow small and medium-scale secondary institutions and industries from the primary petrochemical industries, because this needs to start as the major plants are being established as well, and the awareness has to be enshrined in the investing polity, as this will also lend itself to creating geographically dispersed wealth for the nation. We need robust and aggressive consolidation of our efforts in the power sector reform to enable the dispersed growth of numerous secondary industries that will result from the primary one. And I think that it goes without saying that we need to continue to anchor the initiatives around private sector investments while the federal government continues providing the enabling environment. So I think that all in all, it is quite clear that the linkages between the oil and gas sector and the agricultural sector are very strong indeed. But the linkages also need to cut across other areas of the economy. For instance, in Ogedingbe Industrial Park, we are working very closely with the Minister of Transports to ensure that the ports are being built at the same time as the plants are going up and that the requisite dredging is in place. The Ministries of Industry, Trade and Investment are ensuring that very shortly Mr. President will declare it a free trade zone to ensure that we enhance that aspect of the business. But all in all, we expect that over the next 3-4 years and beyond, the policies that the government has put in place will continue progressively and sustainably to ensure that the right sort of investment is attracted into this sector, that we commercialize our gas and come into the real sector with our gas, which we haven't done before, because it is only when gas, which is abundant in Nigeria, is commercialized in this way that we will actually be able to create the sort of employment generation and job creation all across the value chain of the gas sector that is necessary to move our economy, as any other economy in the world, along and up into the next level. I thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. That was well done. Good afternoon, Honorable Ministers, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very delighted to be here chairing the last session of the second day, and this is a session which is going to deal with a very important part of the agricultural transformation that the government of Nigeria has launched, and that we heard yesterday where His Excellency Mr. President has briefed us along more detail by the Honorable Minister of Agriculture, Akin Adesina, regarding the agricultural transformation agenda. I must say that what I heard over the last 2 days, the remarkable progress that has been made is truly very, very good. One of the key areas of liberalization that we heard was that of fertilizer. And I want to share with you a little bit of background regarding the fertilizer issue before we open up for discussion and question to the panel. The fertilizer sector discussion began in 2005-2006 when the government of Nigeria agreed to host the Africa Fertilizer Summit, which was an African Union summit. And at that time, there was a recognition that without addressing the fertilizer issue, that the Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa, and particularly Nigeria is not going to be able to reach the potential, agriculture potential that it has. And during that time, I worked very closely with the Honorable Minister of Agriculture to put on that the Fertilizer Summit, which was hosted by the government of Nigeria. Now, in the process of that summit, there were three key issues that were the guiding principles. The first issue was access. How can we increase the volume, the range, the quality of inputs using the commercial channel? That was the first guiding principle of the summit. How do we make that fertilizer affordable for the farmer? That means reduce the cost. And then the last item was the incentive. How do we improve the functioning of the output market? Now that was the guiding principles, and based on that, there were 12 resolutions that were adopted at the Africa Fertilizer Summit to take fertilizer consumption in Africa from the current level, which is 1/10 of the world average, to 50 kilograms per hectare from the current number of 8 kilograms per hectare. Now, with that as a background, there were 5 outcomes that came out of the summit. And during our discussion, it will be very obvious that the agricultural transformation agenda that the government of Nigeria has launched embodies those 5 outcomes that came out of the fertilizer summit. I would, before we go forward, I would like to start the discussion with a question to the Honorable Minister. You did give a detail about the plans that the government has in terms of expanding the gas and oil and gas sector. Now, one of the things that is often discussed is regarding the amount of flaring that goes off in terms of the natural gas in Nigeria, which is in some count is about 40%. Now, natural gas is the primary input for the production of nitrogen fertilizer, which is one of the first 3 primary nutrients needed for plant growth. So given that, what is the plan of the government to utilize those flared gas and reduce the wastage and reduce the environmental impact?
Well, thank you. I think that, first of all, at this point in time, we have actually brought down the percentiles of flared gas to about 20%. It is our intent that between now and 2020, that will be reduced to internationally accepted parameters or standards for the flaring of gas. I think I should point out that there is no such thing as oil and gas production with 0% flared gas. It is a natural side, I think, shoot of the exploration process, but it can be kept within acceptable international standards and parameters. In order to ensure that this happens, I think the entire gas master plan that we have already excised out of the petroleum industry bill and begun working on over the last 24 months or so comes into play. The various petrochemical plants that we have spoken about, fertilizer plants that we are embarking upon, our methanol plants, central processing facilities, the first of which has already been embarked upon, our LNG plants and distribution, and of course our compressed natural